The Silent Classroom, a 2-year poetry residence at Pembroke School in South Australia. I started in the dark. The first morning train from Gawler to Adelaide and a bus to the parade. Rain on the glass. Jim Muir, facilities manager with an expansive handshake, handed me a large, heavy silver key for a room above the library, saying with a smile as broad as his Scottish accent, "Have a good stay, laddie." Walking across Kensington Oval to the senior school, balancing a bag and an umbrella, I weighed the key in my hand, a potent metaphor, an auspicious start. There were going to be many openings, I was sure of that. It was still raining when I turned the key to the room above the library in the days to come. A writing table with a bookshelf, telephone, computer and a view of the old Girton Girls' School. Orange clinker bricks through the sharp green needles of an ancient cypress. A view to live for, and for a poet a time to start writing. I met the headmaster later that day in his fire and book-warmed study. He wanted to talk with me about his beloved Eliot and generously loaned me a rare edition of Ezra Pound's revision of The Waste Land. Claire Woods, head of English at Pembroke School, had twice invited me to consider a poetry residency, and twice I had declined. Claire's vision of a poet in residence was not to be diminished, and trying for a third time she convinced me of its possibilities. I have known Claire from my very earliest days of teaching. She came to Smithfield Plains High School as a first-year out teacher in the early 80s. Her leadership now at Pembroke School, her vision, superb teaching practice and love of writing are without peer in all of my experience of schools and English teaching. There was an advertisement on television of a man who, in buying a new house, is consumed with a tree in his newly acquired garden. I've never owned a tree before. My writing had never owned a day, and now it did. Every Thursday would be my poetry day. I'm now looking out at the rain-mired quadrangle from my school window. I have arrived at school at 7 a.m. and have some breakfast and coffee at my desk until 9 a.m. This is my writing time, and it is rare, in the creaking, compelling silence, that a poem does not emerge and is made. What am I writing about? The school in all of its moods, seasons, architecture, children, staff, grounds, history and spirit. Poem, poet in residence. This morning, early, long before lessons, I am sitting at the top of the school, and like the hawk in Hugh's poem, the earth's face upward for my inspection. And all day I will attend to little things, taking a special kind of notice of what under normal circumstances might be missed or simply turned aside. I trace the clockwork of the minutiae of every moment, collecting the flotsam of fabric and fancy, picking up driftwood of discard and dream. Unlike the hawk, I cannot keep things like this. But for a moment this morning, early, long before lessons, I hold the whole school in my poem. While I was tutoring at UniSA, a colleague, David Homer, conducted a very popular summer school entitled Writing the City. I took this idea to the English department as a theme for the teaching that I would do in all their classrooms. Just as I was writing a collection of poems about the school, I would invite, challenge and enthuse the children to do the same. Together, we would write the school. I've never found it difficult to get children to write. Please don't see in this a vain boast, it's not. Once they are presented with the possibilities and excitement of writing, they will write their hearts out, as they did. The hard part, if you like, has more to do with me, my own approach. A bit like making a speech, you have to grab your audience in the first few seconds, minutes. After that, they will listen with rapt attention. Those first few moments in the classroom are critical, and I use a range of well-practiced and honed approaches. I was given enormous enthusiastic support from the entire staff, who embraced the project from its very commencement. Julianne English, head of art, asked me one lunchtime if I had a title for my collection. I said I had several working ideas and shared them with her. The Silent Classroom. Yes, That's the one. Why? Because in all my years of teaching, I have never taught noise. Rather, I teach the interior life, she said. Just as it had all begun in the dark, it ended in a superb, warm and soft violet twilight on the school's lawn for the launch of 2 collections with several hundred people present. Chilled wine, laughter, poems and farewells. There had been so many highlights and triumphs, and we were to learn even at this penultimate moment that Roni Chalette, a Year 12 student, had won the prestigious state chapter of the Taronga Poetry Prize, the largest of its kind in Australia. I have been asked more times than I can count to give a definition of poetry, and in an article I had written for the school's writing magazine Shout, I had said, poetry is at its most profound level a prayer, a cry or an utterance from the very deep and silent places of our hearts and minds. Poem, School Cleaner. You are a final note on an intricate chord of wires, brooms and bags. Your vacuum cleaner plays out an everyday recessional. Your work has the sanction of ordinariness and grace. Your smile is a seal of approval on the stations of the school, and you are a final blessing and benediction on the closing of the day.